Hello everyone and welcome to another video. One of the main goals of Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 is getting as many guests into the park as quickly as possible. So today we're going to learn how to do that by taking a look at how the guest generation algorithm works. There are two completely separate kinds of guest generation, which are natural and from advertisements, and we're going to start with the natural guest generation. This video is based on Dirklink's guide to the guest generation. A link to that guide and his YouTube channel is in the description. The protagonist of the guest spawning algorithm is a certain probability value, which we will call the guest probability. 40 times a second the game generates a random number between 0 and 65,535, and if that number is smaller than the guest probability, a guest is spawned. So how is this guest probability calculated? It starts with a base value of 50. Then your park rating minus 200 is added to it, with a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 650. So if your park rating is 200 or lower, the guest probability stays at 50, and if your rating is 850 or higher, the guest probability increases to 700. And that is it for all the additive bonuses. Now we get to a whole bunch of multiplicative ones, mostly negative. Let's start with the awards. For every positive award you have currently active, your guest probability is multiplied by 1.25, and for every negative award it's multiplied by 0.75. If you somehow manage to get 4 positive awards active at the same time, your guest probability gets multiplied by roughly 2.44 for a total of 1707. This is the highest natural guest probability possible, and it spawns slightly more than 1 guest per second on average. This shows the massive impact that awards can have, and it's always worth it to go for some positive ones and to try to avoid the negative awards. The next factor is the park entry fee. In my previous video we saw that if you charge too much, your guest probability will be divided by 4, and if you charge way too much, it will be divided by 4 again. If you use the rule of thumb to charge 10 euros per coaster or 3 flat rides, you will mostly be fine. If you want more details, you can watch that video, link in the description. Another factor is the frequently mentioned soft guest cap. Every ride and stall has a certain value called the ride bonus value. If you add all the ride bonus values of every opened ride and stall together, you get the soft guest cap. If the number of guests in the park plus the number of guests heading for the park is greater than the soft guest cap, your guest probability will be divided by 4. This is why it's a soft cap and not a hard cap, as it doesn't completely eliminate all guest generation. For a complete list of ride bonus values for every ride, you can check this list, which is linked in the description. There is one more factor in scenarios with normal guest generation, and that is the 7,000 guest limit. If you have more than 7,000 guests in your park, the guest probability will be divided by, you guessed it, 4. This makes it very hard to get more than 7,000 guests in your park if you do not use any ads, and I'm not exactly sure why this limit exists. Maybe it was done to prevent people from hitting the sprite limit. With the massively increased limits in Open RCT2, maybe this limit should be removed or at least raised a bit. Those were all the factors that influence the natural guest probability in scenarios with normal guest generation, but there's also the option to enable harder guest generation. This impacts the guest probability in several ways. First, the soft guest cap is calculated a bit differently. Basically, it's capped at 1000, and after that only rides with a length of at least 600 meters and an excitement rating of at least 6 are contributing. For the exact numbers you can watch this video, once again linked in the description. Not only can you not get away with spamming microcoasters, but the guest probability is also penalized much harsher when you have more guests in the park than the soft guest cap. Instead of it being divided by 4 once, it's divided by 4 twice, for a total reduction of a factor of 16. It gets even worse, as when your guest count is 150 more than the soft guest cap, your guest generation stops entirely. This is the only way, other than I suppose hitting the sprite limit, that you can get a guest probability of 0. To summarize, your natural guest probability is determined by your park rating and can then be further influenced by awards, the entry price, the soft guest cap and the 7,000 guest rule. In scenarios with harder guest generation, the soft guest cap is calculated a bit differently and gives a much harsher penalty. And that's it for the natural guest generation, but there's also the guest generation from advertising. This is completely separate and ignores everything we've just discussed. This is why ads are so powerful. You can charge $100 for a park with 1 merry-go-round and 8,000 guests in it, and the ads will still attract the same number of guests. How they work is really simple. Every ad campaign has a guest probability and that's pretty much it. There are some interesting aspects to this though. For example, the most expensive ad campaign, which is the general park advertisement, is not the strongest. The free park entry campaign generates almost twice as many guests, and the free ride ticket campaign is also stronger. Their cheapness doesn't tell the full story though. Since they make things free, they get you less money per guest than the other campaigns. They are absolutely fantastic if all you need is as many extra guests as quickly as possible though. Those two and the one for half price entry fee do have another catch, and that is that their guest generation probability gets divided by 8 if your entrance fee or ride ticket price is already very cheap. For the entry fee ones, that happens if you charge less than 4 and 6 euros respectively, and for the ride ticket price one it happens if the ride is cheaper than 30 cents. The two ride advertisement campaigns also immediately make all guests that are generated from that campaign head towards the advertised ride. If the ride is too intense or not intense enough, the guest won't actually go on it though. The free food or drink campaign doesn't do this, which makes sense as the guests might not actually be hungry or thirsty yet. Also, fun fact, the discount is handled by giving the guest a one-time use voucher, which is an item I bet many of you have never seen before. In pay-per-ride scenarios, you have access to these 4 ad campaigns, which have a combined guest probability of 950. This is already stronger than the maximum natural probability if you have 1 positive award, which shows how powerful ads are. In pay-for-entry scenarios, the free ride ticket campaign gets replaced by the free and half-price park entry campaigns. This gives a total guest probability of 1250, which is stronger than the maximum natural generation with 2 positive awards. If you're playing a park where you can charge for both the entrance and the ride, you can get a guest probability of 1550 if you run all ad campaigns at the same time. Combined with the 1707 from the natural guest probability, this is a probability of 3257. This spawns roughly 2 guests per second, or about 814 guests in one in-game month. In a more realistic scenario of only charging for the entrance and having 1 positive award active at a time, this spawns an average of 531 guests a month, or about 4,250 a year. This is in line with my record of getting slightly more than 4,000 guests in 1 year when starting from scratch. Keep in mind that 2,500, which is more than half of these 4,250 guests, come from the ad campaigns. This shows once again how immensely powerful advertisement campaigns are. If you want to make a scenario more difficult, disabling ads is a very good way to do that, especially in combination with harder guest generation. And that is all there is to know about the guest generation and advertisements. It's actually quite simple how it works. As long as your park rating is good, you don't charge too much for the entrance and you don't have too many guests in your park, your natural guest generation will always be at the maximum. Awards can boost it even more, but you can't really control which ones you get. All you can do is make sure that you can't get the negative ones and that you qualify for as many positive awards as you can. Also, advertise as often as possible, both for your park and my content. Thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next video.